It is 12:03, and we will call this committee meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee to order. All committee members are present, along with a great cast of staff. Thank you, Eric, Matt, and Jacob, for being here. We'll go a little out of our order on this agenda so that Mr. Sigworth can go home before Christmas. And so we'll hear the case for 219 Hurd Avenue to start, which is a rezone request to rezone that 219 Hurd Avenue from I-1 light industrial to R3 small lot residential.
So this property, the zoning map update, we recommended, this is light industrial. The zoning map update, we recommended that they change it to R3 residential. They signed the opt-out form requesting that it not be changed. It has since changed hands. The current owner is wishing to improve the property and as part of working with zoning, needed to get the R3 designation. Eric, do you know the reason why they needed that?
Yeah, he was tearing down the back structure, so whenever he replaced it with something new, it would have been non-conforming. You'd have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for like rebuilding or get it rezoned properly, and it would meet all setbacks at that point. So it was already suggested to move to R3 anyways. So it was just almost formality of finally giving him the proper classification in case he ever does sell in the future. He bought it with cash, so that it never came through with under our radar whenever a loan company would call us. So yeah, we're here now.
So staff recommended approval, and the board voted unanimously 5-0 or 4-0 to recommend approval of the rezoning request.
And for me, this is for me a no-brainer. The I-1 is a holdover from many a moon ago. You couldn't see this neighborhood switching to an I-1 use. It's obviously sticks out as needing to be the zoning that the applicant is requesting. I move that that we approve this as requested.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Hellman. Comments, questions?
I've got a question.
Benny.
This then will be consistent with the other orange land use that's there, and would the maximum number of dwelling units would be, what, a duplex?
Well, maximum is one. A conditional use, they can apply for a duplex or triplex.
Okay.
As one building. You can't have
Right.
two separate.
I got myself confused. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So, as it stands, it would be a single-family residential development unless
Correct.
they come and ask for conditional use. I
Yep.
got it. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, we have a recommendation or a motion to recommend approval as requested. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and it is passed.
So now this will go to City Council. It'll have its 3 readings, one at each successive meeting in the public hearing before the third one. You're welcome to go to all those. My experience is that you won't need to attend. If there's one to attend, it would be the third one where there's a public meeting.
Where are we? No, it won't be on the last meeting in July. Wouldn't we be on the calendar for
next
Tuesday? Yeah, we should be on.
27th.
Yeah.
We should be on for the 20th.
20th is the first.
18th of July would be the third meeting of council.
You meet the 5th, I think.
Yeah,
and
by the
then
18th.
and then that'd be the 18th of July. The meeting's at 6,
Correct.
and the public comment.
Public hearing would be at 5:50, I think, and generally, and especially in this case, I am not thinking there will be a groundswell of opposition to this request.
I would not think so.
You can come and see city government at its finest.
Yeah, it's all looking at this property is cleaned up where we've on its side and make it a little property.
Yep.
Because I own quite a few properties in that neighborhood, and that was the reason we wanted to clean up that corner when I found it was available, so.
Appreciate it.
Good, thank you for your
Thank
work.
you.
I thank everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next case is concerning 0 West McPherson, rezone from O1 office and institutions to M2 multifamily high density.
Okay, this is property is located on West McPherson. As you can see, this light blue. This once was part of the Lake Cascades development PUD. It's currently zoned office O1. It's surrounded by is that R2 residential. The applicant's requesting to rezone it from office to M2 multifamily. At the planning commission meeting, there were a few residents, probably I think 3 residents that got up and spoke. They all generally were against or had concerns about the rezoning. Concerns about traffic, runoff, concerns about height. Mr. Yates, the developer, is proposing a 3-story unit. This is, so it'll hardly be recognizable. It is one of the buildings that'll be subject to tear down for the new YMCA. He's proposing to move it and then make major renovations at a 3rd story.
So, point of clarification, we are doing a rezone request, we are not doing a site plan review, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, for our decision-making, the relevance of, or what is being placed on this, truly doesn't have relevance, because the applicant could get the rezoning and then for some reason not build through here, and then you have the property is rezoned.
Correct. A site plan was on the same agenda, and it was, I think, my recommendation to Mr. Yates was to include some site plan discussion, include some renderings, knowing that that may never come to pass, but showing his intentions would be helpful for his case.
Where were the properties that came to the meeting this morning? Do you know?
Two to the right, 2 to the east, that, and then across the street, I think the light green or the one next to it. And then over to the left of that, yeah, over in there someplace.
Turn your microphone on.
And
Real quick, the board did discuss, and they did vote 4-0 to recommend the rezoning.
I just got these renderings from RCM recently. So I just kind of drew on here. I'm also going to have masonry. They are going to be more aesthetic. You know, it's going to be more attractive than that rendering. So I just want to at least show that to you all. And then if this proceeds, I'll have much better renderings and whatnot once we get to that process.
Yeah, to the site plan.
so, Matt, you mentioned that this was part of did you say a VUD?
PUD.
PUD. Okay, I was going to say I had never heard of the VUD. And so what was the history on that? Because I think there's some relevance. And
Well, to the south is the Lake Cascades development, and this was part of that whole PUD.
Was it just this parcel, or was there also anything to the
Oh.
west of this?
Everything to the south, plus,
And this was the only one on the north side of that street.
correct,
Okay. And that's what gave it its O1
yeah.
zoning.
I think a while, years ago, I think there was some thought that this would also develop, and they probably also thought that they might come out, might get a curb cut here. But obviously, time changes things, plans change. This has been office. It's large enough to put a 4+ story office building on it within the rules of our code.
Can you show the Google Maps
Yes.
version of this?
While you're doing that, the request is an M2, right?
Yep.
How close is the next M2 to this area of town? I mean, where would be the next multi?
I'm just thinking.
Pretty. I just didn't know if it was close in the area.
I would have to look. I think there are some small M2s where people have 2 or 3 duplexes on the same lot.
Like South Main Street has that 3-plex, or isn't it a 3 or 4?
Well, I'm not sure where.
I think Liberty Street has the closest one. There's like parcel that has like 5 units on it.
This is the lot here. Parts of the discussion, the building is set way back here to take advantages of the view of Lake Cascades. I first had some concerns too when we had 3 stories. I think if the 3-story building followed the same building line as those houses, that would be kind of a sense of scale disruption with, but being closer this way, that mitigates it. But it's next to a substation. It's next to a busy road. And so in general, the staff recommended approval. But we will get an opportunity to discuss all those items when a site plan is delivered.
So what is, from a land use plan, and I know that this came up during the McDonald's discussion, what land use plan has this as, or what,
Has this as office?
has this as office? And then but for this side of the street, were we always thinking office, or were we thinking that this turns into a little bit of transitional? Or, because I know if you pull out, you have the offices at at Main and at Main and McPherson. You have then a handful of buildings that are a little bit dilapidated, I guess would be the word I'll use.
In some ways, in this case, the tail wagged the dog. And when I say that, this was zoned office/PUD years before we ever had a land use plan. So when we created the land use plan, we, in some cases like this, we looked at what it was zoned in some cases. So I think the land use plan has this as office, I think because it was zoned office. So you bring up a point. The land use plan is a guide. And it's, so in, it's a good guide. It's not something that has to be followed 100% of the time. And in this case, I think deviating from the land use plan makes sense. And that's where boards come into play to look at situations like this and try to make a smart decision. I think M2 is generally a less intense use than the office use.
It's a very unique street because of what you have at Main Street. Then you come down and you have an AT&T facility. That's the white building there. And then you have a substation, and then you have a church, and then you have a small little tire building facility just beyond the church. And then across the street you have, which that street is, anybody who's on the south side know, is really the Maginot Line. You just don't cross from those neighborhoods onto Lake Cascades because of the slope. So that acts as a strong buffer. But right across from this is Sunrise and an office building. So it is a very interesting mixed bag of zoning. And so I when we were having the McDonald's discussions, I always looked at the south side of this as more transitional into the solidly single lot residential, and thought that this was an O1 M2 type of and in fact that's what I kind of argued on the houses to the just directly west of the proposed McDonald's facility, is that their direction should have been towards an O1 M2 versus a C2 zoning.
I haven't heard any complaints from anybody in the area. So going back, you said there was people here and they are having concerns with the aesthetics, but are they having, what was the concern of the M2, or that was not even an issue for them?
Like I said, there was concerns about drainage, which, all the drainage on their site has to be contained. Their parking lot and will go to their dry detention pond. Height was a concern, but we have at the site plan level, even if it's Mr. Yates or someone else, we have the ability to make them locate the building, which closer to Lake Cascades, I think mitigates that. There's concerns about, a lot of concerns were brought up. I can't speak for the board. I don't think that the concerns rang true to the board because they voted.
Yeah. I just wanted to hear that you said that there was concerns about more people in the neighborhood or more traffic, or or something a lot, but you're not saying that, and I didn't hear any of that from anybody.
They raised traffic, trash. Why would anybody want to live that close to a substation? Sight lines into backyards, water.
And also just from the street, being able to see the parking lot or whatever. So I agree
Yeah.
that some kind of landscaping or trees to screen it off.
Did you, Brian?
I guess kind of in my view of I guess I would be in favor, because for me, I think that it kind of,
I don't think he's purchased it, so we can't change it.
I think it has kind of cement the argument that this is a residential neighborhood as opposed to somewhere where we're going to put a McDonald's, for example. I guess that's just my view on the situation. And if it can be mitigated, the concerns can be mitigated, I don't see a problem with it.
Andrew, do you want to introduce the project a little bit to the board?
Sure.
Just for,
Yeah.
once again, with the knowledge that site plan is not what we're here for. This is just information more on what's being proposed, size, scope, so to give an idea of how this works with neighborhood concerns.
Sure, thank you. So yeah, to go back, I had about a year and a half, 2 years ago, purchased a 24-unit small apartment complex and fixed those up. And as we leased them, saw that there was quite a demand and need for nice quality one-bedroom apartments. So that being the case, that is what attracted to me to doing something like this in general. I had working with the Y to relocate a building that's otherwise going to get demolished to this location. I basically just replicated that floor plan and added enough units to where the project was viable for me. I think originally you saw on there 18. That was, frankly, I don't know if I would have done it at 18, but that's what I originally was looking at. However, these are all small one-bedroom apartments. They're going to have granite, new cabinets, obviously. The existing structure that's going to get moved, it's got to be brought up to code, so it'll be indistinguishable from new construction. Again, trying to make the aesthetics of this nice for my residents. We're going to have a dog park. Want to work with National Lime and Stone to get an easement to connect to that bike path that's on the south end. And again, trying to add features that not a lot of other places have in Findlay so that it's attractive. And again, putting balconies on the south-facing Lake Cascades, that right there aren't many places like that may have a view like that. So for whether it's people that work at the hospital, close to 75 if people need to travel, it's just a good location. And trying to obviously screen off the substation for that. Just trying to make an attractive place for people. That is one difficult thing is one bedrooms. And I will say that if I was not able to work with the Y to do this, it makes it more challenging cost-wise to build that same thing and keep rents where they're at. I'd have to increase it, and then that gets to the point where it might not be worth it. It might be too much risk. So in this particular combination where it can use that existing structure, move it, that's the combination that I'm looking at to do this.
Brian, you didn't have any, this is your ward, is it not? No questions from any of your residents? Nobody's contacted, so, yeah.
And I did send out a letter along with pictures of previous projects. I had not, we gave contact information. I have not heard one thing from one person. And then today, obviously, there were a few people showed concerns. Also, too, on that elevation, that doesn't show it. That's a very early rendition. I'm going to put masonry on the first floor. We're going to do things both from a color standpoint, aesthetic standpoint, where there's different textures and whatnot, so it's attractive. That's, like I said, that's black and white version like that is not a clear picture of what it'll look like.
I got a question.
Dan?
And you mentioned that the number of units that you could get in there, the number 18 dwelling units is not financially feasible for the most part.
It could work. I just don't know that I would go through all this for 18 units. That was always part of it, is if I can get enough units on site. That was a challenge. Originally with that building, it was 12 units. It was difficult. And then to pay what I paid for that with just 12 units and to go through this process, I don't know that I would have done that. So 24 units got it to the point where it makes business sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've visited that site twice now, and I'm somewhat familiar with it because of the AT&T facility that's there. I don't have a problem with it being a multi-family unit, but I look at the rest of that in there, and it's all pretty much single family. Some of them are pretty dilapidated and could use some work. The number 24 to me seemed fairly intense, quite frankly. And the size of the building is intense as well. And that's why I asked the question if you could do it with less units, but it doesn't seem like
the other
feasible.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The other consideration is if I did less units and say there were 3 bedroom, you could have less units, but you're still, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is bedrooms. There are 24 bedrooms.
Mm.
You're going to have 1.25 people living per unit.
Mm.
That being the case, although there are a higher quantity of units, you would have less people there and less parking than if you had 15, 18 3-bedroom apartments. You'd have double or plus the amount of people there. So because these are small 1-bedroom apartments, I realize the unit count is higher, but when you actually look at people on site, it would be less than if it was 2 or 3 bedroom.
Okay.
I was just going to have you bring
Thank
that
you.
up, so I'm glad you did that. And just so the people can hear it, you have a reputation in the community. You've been doing projects, and they're usually not subsidized or anything like that. You don't have plans for that at this point to subsidize. It's going to be good rent. I'm hoping maybe the hospital, they have a lot of folks coming in and out and working, that you're going to have that type of clientele renting, and they are small units. They're to sleep and go back to work, as far
Mhm.
as I can tell.
Yeah, so everybody has their own niche. You can make, whatever a person's personal preference is. If there's a demand on the higher end, that's just my niche. So I've seen it through the other project. What's nice is we had an abundance of qualified tenants. We didn't have any place to put them, so that tells me whether it's development or acquire something else and fix it up, there's a need there. And again, keeping in mind that the size of the unit is able to keep that balance of, a good quality place. Because once you start getting, say, 1,000 square foot for a one-bedroom apartment, there's no way to do it cost-wise and keep the price reasonable. So yes, no, these will be higher-end units.
And we talked about this at our at the appropriations committee meeting about housing or tight housing market and the effects on economic development. And at some point in time, to relieve housing shortages, you have to build housing. And if you're going to do it inside the city without annexing large swaths of property, things like this have to be. You need to take open property like this and make housing available. I think it's a creative use of the property. I mean, that's why I'm in support of it. But I go back to, I think that the long term for this neighborhood, if you looked 50 years from now, you might see a smattering of other multifamily on it. And I would think that the next version of the land use plan might reflect that. The big thing, though, Matt, is, and this is because we are just doing a rezone, we're not approving this specific project, is the ability of city planning in the site plan to ensure some of the amenities, in essence, placement of the property, of the building, would happen in whatever gets approved, because you are really protecting the citizens' concerns in that.
Yeah, at the site plan, the city planning commission will have a lot of control to dictate the design, and if it's Mr. Yates or someone else, sizing, massing, location of the building, screening, all those are a consideration. And we have a good planning commission, and I feel confident that they will take all the proper steps to mitigate any negative effects to the neighborhood, no matter who's the developer. I'm sure it's going to be Mr. Yates if it passes,
right.
But when you rezone, you just say, this is going to be M2, it's going to be whatever it is for the next 20 years. Whatever someone said, you have to take that with a grain of salt. But to Holly's point, Mr. Yates has a good track record in our community, and I think this is a need in our community, and this site is unique, as Grant pointed out, and I think that this is a good opportunity.
I'm going to make that motion to approve that rezone change for all of those reasons we've talked about.
Second.
May I shorten that to approve as requested?
Sure. When will he go to site plan? A couple months out?
It was tabled. My indication is that we can expect a site plan in the next couple months.
Probably too.
Probably.
Just like right now with RCM and Wood County being so backed up, I would love for it next month. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I
Yeah,
just want to know when the building's being moved, and will you take it down South Main Street, and can I have a watch party?
I want to get this moved forward so that I can get it out for the Y. Yeah.
Technically, he probably has to wait until the zoning request goes all the way through before a site plan can be reviewed and approved.
No, we review them contingent upon the zoning.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to approve as requested. Any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor of the motion to approve as requested, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Andrew, you are set
Awesome. Thank you
with this
very much.
stage.
Thanks, Andy.
Oh, if you want to stop that. Nope, you're good, because you kind of had it up there, I think.
Trying to
Yeah,
keep your
have a
costs
good
down.
one.
Appreciate it, appreciate it.
And we also, city planning tabled the West Folk Avenue rezone because the applicant was unable to make the meeting, and so just so that we can follow their lead, I will make a motion to table this motion, or this one. Second, Mr. Baumann. And there's no questions or comments on a motion to table. All in favor of tabling, please say aye. Approve, same sign, or against, same sign, and so that is tabled. The planning and zoning, or no, we're planning and zoning. City Planning Commission did start to discuss the zoning code changes, and they gave some direction to Hancock Regional Planning, and they will then reconsider that the next time at their July meeting. I think you said you expect to see the next version of this come June 30th after your vacation.
That is correct.
Fantastic. And so that we can table this also, I make a motion to table this. Jimmy, I'll second. All those in favor of tabling this, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And it is tabled. I believe we have no other business for the good of the order. So with that, we will adjourn. We will adjourn. Second by me, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. And we are done at 12:34.
Like you'll know it off the top of your head. 616 Woodward. You got something for everyone? I have a few minutes.